What's up, board game people? Welcome back to our upcoming campaigns in 2022 Part 2. In Part 1, we went through 9 campaigns that ranged from having launch dates to having no idea if they'll ever see the light of day. Today we have a fresh list that seems to get longer and longer. These games may or may not make it to a crowdfunding platform in 2022, but the last I heard on them, they're still targeting to launch this year. Before we begin, please know that I don't take any money from game companies to make my videos. I make them for gamers like you and me to spread the news about games I find interesting and exciting. I do my best to verify all of my information, but sometimes I get things wrong or we may disagree. That's fine, and please let me know in the comments so we can discuss. So let's dive right in and see what's headed our way. First up, let's get one that you may have not heard of out in the open. Hunters AD 1492 is the follow-up to the well-received Hunters AD 2114. Hunters is a survival game in which players embark on missions to hunt dangerous enemies, collecting the remains of their quarry, leveling up and upgrading equipment to survive the next and even more dangerous hunt. AD 1492 looks to expand on the premise of the futuristic AD 2114, while pulling the franchise back in time to the medieval era. The artwork, character designs, and locations already revealed portray a dark, gritty reality in which every meal might be your last. I look forward to hearing the details of the narrative campaign and how they plan to expand and improve upon their existing game systems. No date for the project is known, but a recent message indicates a possibility of an early Q4 launch this year. Sticking with the medieval theme, we have Kingdom Come: Deliverance, headed to Gamefound sometime later this year. Kingdom Come is a cooperative app-driven adventure game with RPG elements that will see you and your friends adventuring through the land of milk and honey as it fills with blood. Based in the time of the Hussite Wars, you'll travel a war-torn land where every choice you make impacts your journey and follows you. Kingdom Come, the board game, is based off a video game of the same name that is known to be incredibly immersive, telling a fantastic rags-to-glory tale, and all the while being brutally difficult. The game is very high on my list of hidden gems of the last generation, and absolutely worth your time if you're interested. I have very high hopes for the board game, and I hope that it can capture the feeling of the struggle to merely exist in those trying times. Now let's take a look at something completely different. Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum flips the script on your normal superhero games and has you playing villains in a desperate attempt to scheme, plot, and pry your way out of Arkham Asylum, ultimately evade or defeat the big bad bat. The campaign is coming loaded with fantastic minis for all of the better known and some of the lesser known baddies in the DC universe. The campaign has been delayed due to health issues in the past, and looks to be ready to launch any day now. I'm sure they wanted to space it out from Gotham City Chronicles, and now that that campaign is concluded, hopefully we'll see this one soon. Now let's take a portal and return to Arathia. Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is currently in development by Archon Games, the makers of the phenomenal Wolfenstein board game adaptation. Heroes of Might and Magic is an adventure-driven strategy game for 1 to 3 players that will have players questing and fighting to determine the fate of the lands of Arathia. The game is planned to include competitive, co-op, and solo scenarios to battle or explore through. The game will feature an overland exploration map with strategic battles taking place on more centralized maps, including miniatures and card combat. Not much more is known about the game at this time, but the campaign is targeting November 2022, so we're sure to learn more soon. Let's take a look at a miniature-heavy campaign that's likely coming this way sometime in late 2022. Celestial by Dimension Games has the perfect mix of weird and creepy with a dash of horror thrown in that always begs me to take a closer look. Celestial is a miniature game based off of Chinese folklore. Not a ton is known about the game, but looking at past Dimension Games releases, such as Deep Madness and Twisted Fables, I'm sure we can expect a game that will live up to the minis. The minis themselves look fantastic and have already begun being seen in the wild. As for a launch date for the project, that's completely unknown. Currently, Dimensions is working to fulfill the Dawn of Madness campaign, so I expect we won't see anything until that is closer to completion. Rogue Angels: Legacy of the Burning Suns is headed back to Kickstarter later this year with more media coverage, a better campaign layout, some exciting changes, and a whole lot more love and polish. This game never really got the attention it deserved, and I think a second run at funding is just what it needs. The missions that have been previewed on other channels look amazing, and I look forward to finding some time to try the demo out for myself. The long-form narrative campaign that accompanies the game is what really drew me in for this one. Lots of people have likened the game to being a Mass Effect board game, and honestly for me that's incredibly high praise. Hopefully we'll see some expanded options for the campaign, such as acrylic standees for the relaunch, but regardless, this is one I'll be covering for sure once it hits Kickstarter again. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this next one. I recently got sucked into Core Space Firstborn after falling in love with the incredibly thematic terrain, so for me Maladum being from a medieval theme is a no-brainer. Maladum Dungeons of Enveron from Battle Systems is set to hit Kickstarter sometime in the near future and looks spectacular. Battle Systems already has a ton of fantasy-themed terrain pieces to pull from, and I hope to see most of them incorporated into the game eventually. The game itself is not just a rehash of Core Space with a fantasy mask on it either. They're updating the rules, refining the core systems, and adding to it to bring the world and gameplay of Maladum to life. There will be more enemy variety, more items, and more action to be had. The dungeon prototype is shaping up quite nicely, and they're drip feeding us information on almost a monthly basis. I would say we should expect to see this one sooner rather than later. Now let's hop over to a couple of campaigns that are following up major and well-received releases. First up, we have Townfolk's Tussle returning to crowdfunding with not one, not two, but 3 expansions and a reprint of the often begrudgingly beloved original core game. I, for one, never got a chance to grab a copy of the original, and I've been feeling like I'm missing out, so this is music to my ears. Townsfolk Tussle has been critically well received, but many say that the outcome of battle can rely far too heavily on luck. The game, which is supposed to relate the story of the defense of small-town Eureka Springs after the sheriff has been murdered, seems to be best played as a series of one-off encounters. It will be interesting to see if the expansions are able to remove some of the reliance on luck while stitching together the narrative in a way that makes players want to return to Eureka Springs again and again. According to the creators, Oathsworn Into the Deepwood should be heading back to a crowdfunding platform near you in the future with a reprint of the core game, which has had a waitlist a mile long and will start arriving at backers' doorsteps next week. It should also be accompanied by a major expansion to the game. I totally respect that they've stuck to their guns and not returned to crowdfunding before delivering on the original campaign. Reviews from the convention floors put Oathsworn amongst the top games in the genre, and a huge set of mystery boxes combined with what looks to be an amazing narrative campaign should keep us all busy for quite some time. I'll reserve my judgment until my copy arrives, but nonetheless I'm excited to see everyone get a second shot at getting the game, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for the future. And finally, it's time to talk about the big one. Sankokushin 5 Sacrifices is coming later this year. This was again confirmed in the last huge update that dropped a few days ago. This is easily my most anticipated project for the year. Sankokushin is a cooperative narrative campaign game set in a fictional version of medieval Japan. You and your friends will lead a band of heroes to the city of Yamashiro and help the city survive its grim destiny. You're free to make the choices you wish and explore the different avenues of the story at will, but time is not your friend. The main plot advances over a 12-month time period regardless of your progress. You must build relationships, fortify and expand the city, enlist the boons of gods, and uncover ancient knowledge to find a way to stop the destruction of this city. I could literally go on and on about everything they've released so far, but that's the subject of another video. This game appears to be approaching that rare category of boutique games, and is often held up alongside Kingdom Death Monster for comparison. This will for sure be huge when it hits crowdfunding later this year, and you can be sure that I'll be bringing you every juicy detail I can get my hands on. So that's pretty much it for the games I expect to see coming later this year. But wait, there's more. I've saved a few honorable mentions for the end here. I won't go into great detail on these games, because there's very little known about them. Some may have even been abandoned. Some may still make the cut for 2022, and some may not see the light of day until next year. First mention goes to Ronin Warrior. This game was teased in the summer of last year. There's a website where you can find the scant few details, but nothing recent has been said about the progress of the project. The game is said to have 2 modes of play, solo or cooperative campaign mode, and a strategic wargame. Next is Blood Oak from Black Forge Games. Black Forge has some amazing STL files for some characters from the game known as the Ancients, and if they're able to translate these miniatures to tabletop scales, This game is going to be impressive hitting your table. Marked as Chapter 1 of a multi-part story, the game is a tactical miniature and tile board game. You control one of the 4 tribes and fight beneath the branches of the Blood Oak. It's slated for late 2022, but little has been said about the board game itself. Rumor and whispers have been circulating about a new Dragonlance board game designed by Rob DeVoe and Stephen Baker. It's slated to be an integration of the 5th edition works and a board game that's not been seen to date. Details are scarce, but I'll keep digging and let you know what I hear. Last, we have Warcrow from Corvus Belli. Warcrow was officially announced at Adepticon as a new fantasy universe spanning multiple titles. Warcrow Adventures, a dungeon crawler, will be the first introduction to this new world and should be hitting crowdfunding in the fall of 2022. Again, I don't have a ton of details, but I'm beginning to put together a better picture and will bring all the news to you here on the channel once I know more. So that's officially it. 10 more games featured and 4 honorable mentions. There are still a ton of board games coming our way this year, so ready your wallets and keep your eyes peeled here for all the latest on these titles and more. If you know of any other projects you think I might be interested in, please let me know in the comments. I'm only one person and I'm sure I missed quite a few. If you haven't already, please subscribe and help our little channel and community grow. We're trying to grow an open, educated, and insightful board gaming community here on YouTube and on Discord. You can find a link to our Discord in the video description and join if you want to get in on the ground floor. Thank you all for watching and remember to play something fun tonight.